You know, 1999 is an interesting year. It was kind of a cool year because we were right on the cusp of a new millennium. The internet was still young and was creating all kinds of opportunity for people. It was shaping everything from language to what it meant to be connected to each other. It was a hopeful time overall, and sure, there was a little apprehension with something like Y2K floating in the air, but that couldn't overshadow the general feeling of, I think, general goodwill and kind of adventure is the best way to say it, I think. And that was the year that my wife and I had our first child, my daughter Cecily. And just a month or two after Cecily was born, I remember seeing something about this movie called The Matrix. And I just heard a little bit about it, didn't know a lot about it. I saw the campaign, What is the Matrix? And I went to the website, which was utterly cool. It was crazy for that time. It was super interactive. It looked like a photograph that was kind of like alive. And that was unusual for the internet at that time. I didn't get to see it in the theater. That's the weird thing. I wasn't sure, and I don't remember how long it was in the theater, but it feels like it was only in there for a few weeks. I got it on DVD and I watched it. It was a seminal moment, blew me away on so many levels. I mean, the most obvious is the visual effects, the look, the feel of the film, the blending of kind of like this hip cyberpunk with film noir imagery and the thriller aspect and the techno aspect, all this stuff, just like in a big blender, but incredibly cohesive. I think that was the first thing about the film that struck me, was how important production design is to a concept, to a storyline. I kind of already knew that, but this movie, the way they put it together was just different. I think the other thing that hit me probably is even more lasting, more impactful, and frankly, more important as a storyteller. And that is, I knew from Planet of the Apes that you could say and ask important questions. But this film didn't ask them directly. Planet of the Apes was pretty straightforward. It was pretty obvious, the statements it was making, the questions it was asking. But The Matrix, the questions it was asking weren't always obvious. But they were utterly clear to me. And I realized what I was experiencing was subtext. I love subtext. I love it. I didn't know I loved it. It was like trying a new flavor that you had had in the past, but was mixed up with all these other flavors that were more overpowering. And until your palate matures, you don't taste that flavor. A flavor doesn't stand out. But there was something in the way The Matrix framed everything, and it hit me in that amazing and famous scene that Lawrence Fishburne should have won an Academy Award for, where Morpheus is talking to Neo and explaining just the surface of what The Matrix is.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is?
And he's talking about the Matrix, but
The Matrix.
he's not just talking about the Matrix. He's talking and making statements and asking questions about philosophy, about connectivity, about technology, about many of these things that are fundamental in our lives. But the Matrix, through its viewpoint, asked these questions and reframed a lot of things that we take for granted, mainly how we view the world. I couldn't believe it. I thought, my gosh, it was resonating with me in a big way. I think it was that I was sensitized and vulnerable to it because of the birth of my daughter. It was making me see things in a different light for the first time in my life. And when the Matrix came just months after this into my world, I was ready for it. I saw it for what it was because it was asking questions I was asking. It's by far one of the most seminal science fiction films of all time, and rightly so. And just like Planet of the Apes, it was an epic moment in my life. Another 16, 17 years later, I realize and have this epiphany that we can ask these questions, we can engage people on a surface level, and we can go deep with them in an obvious way, but even better, on top of that, we can go deep with them on a subtextual level.